What's up, everyone? This is James Cuilty, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Your Upline. So, what does morning breakfast cereals and Saturday morning cartoons have to do with you succeeding in your business this year and beyond? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's episode, so let's get to it.
How do you build a successful business in network marketing when everyone you know thinks it's a scam? How do you achieve that dream lifestyle when 99% of distributors quit within their first year, broke and worse off than when they started? If you ask the so-called experts or talk to your family and friends, they will tell you that it's impossible, that it can't be done. But it is being done, and it's happening each and every day by a select group of people that you probably never even heard of. My name is James Cuilty. Join me as I seek to find out how these elite few beat the odds and succeed in network marketing. Welcome to Beyond Your Upline.
So the other night, my wife and I were having a conversation with our children at the dinner table, and my middle daughter, she asked, so if you can, eat only one food for breakfast, what would it be? So, she started asking, and so we started going around the table, and I started thinking, and I was like, wow, and then I asked the question, I said, so we can eat this, every single day and it won't mess us up or we won't gain weight or anything like that. And she said, yes, you can eat it as much as you want and it won't hurt you whatsoever. And I said, oh, okay. So I started, thinking, and one of the things that I really loved was Saturday morning when I would wake up ready for Saturday morning cartoons, and what I would do is I'd go into the cabinet or the pantry, I should say, and I would get out my favorite morning cereal. Pour it in the bowl, pour the milk. I'd even add in, even though it had a bunch of sugar, didn't know this at the time, but adding some more sugar, to it, and it was just like heaven, right? And one of my favorite breakfast cereals was, Apple Jacks, and so I said, Apple Jacks, and then my wife, she goes, oh yeah, I remember my cereal, and my daughter asked, well, how come you don't eat that anymore? We told them, well, it's because it's not really good for you. It's all full of sugar. And, if you look at, daddy, he got all sorts of cavities when he was younger. And I said, yeah, it's true. But so after the conversation, while, everyone was getting ready or cleaning up the kitchen and getting ready for bed, I kind of got a little nostalgic. And I sat down at my desk and I, got on YouTube and I just kind of pulled up those breakfast cereal commercials. Just again, I was kind of reliving my childhood days, and as I pulled up one of the commercials for one of the cereals that I used to eat, I was kind of watching it. It kind of hit me while I was listening to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? This is actually one of the principles that could actually help me with my business this year, and I could also help with everybody else, right? And so what it was it was 5 simple words in the commercial, and if you weren't really looking for it, you would totally miss it, right? And so if you've ever watched those commercials before, right, they have, some dancing figure or something like that. But it's always interesting because at the end of the commercial, what they say is that cereal, they didn't say that this is the end all be all, but what they do say is this is part of a nutritious breakfast. That little phrase was like a light bulb that went off in my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, because one, the cereal people, sellers, whatever you want to call them, right? They knew that obviously the parents were the ones that were going to be buying those cereals for the kids, right? So obviously they had the really interesting, fun commercial up front to get the kids excited, but they knew, through their research, and they knew because they knew their target market, that obviously the parents are going to be purchasing the cereals. So, but what they did was they attracted the children first, right? And then the children would go to the parents, "Mommy, Daddy, can you get me this cereal?" Well, like any good parent, you're going to go and you're going to do a little research, find out, well, what is this, this cereal? And so what's most important for the parents of children, right? They want them to be healthy. They want a nutritious breakfast. They want them to be able to have a lot of energy, to do well in school and all that stuff, right? So they always said that cereal was part of a nutritious breakfast, and they would always have that cereal. And then what the other parts were was they had like milk or orange juice. They would have toast. They would have, some fruit. They would always have these other options that went around the cereal itself. So the cereal wasn't the end all be all. So it answered that burning desire in all parents to want to give their kids something healthy, right? And so how does that relate to you and your business? Well, your product or your service, whatever you are selling, it's not the end all be all. It has to be part of a system that is going to get a certain outcome for your target market, right? And so what do I mean by that? So let's just say you're selling a essential oil, and most of the people that would purchase essential oils are people that are health conscious, and they are looking for alternative ways to heal whatever element is bugging them, right? Whether they have, a nagging pain in their back, they have, knee issues or something like that, right? And so you don't go at them saying, you need to buy this essential oil, or, like the other people that are selling CBD products, right? You don't approach them saying this is the end all be all, because immediately they're going to put up the radar and say, this sounds like a scam, right? But what you do is you come at them saying, have you experienced as you get older, your joints start to ache? And have you noticed that all the doctors do is just prescribe you more and more medications, which, they don't really talk to you about what kind of side effects they may or may not have, right? So I felt that same way, but what I had found was a system that allowed me to get out of those aches and pains. And so now I don't experience that, and I don't have to take any type of medication, right? And so obviously that system would be what? Well, you're going to have to change your diet, right? There's certain foods that you would eat that brings down inflammation, right? And inflammation is one of the biggest issues with pain. Especially in the joints and in the entire body, right? And so then there's also some lymphatic type exercises that you can do. And what is that? That's basically like moving, like, jumping on a rebounder, those little mini trampolines, going for a walk, as you get up in the morning, having some green tea with a half a lemon, or, a tablespoon of lemon juice. Again, that helps with inflammation. It also helps to stabilize blood sugar, bringing your insulin down. And that also, contributes to, or it helps to bring down the inflammation. So that brings down the pain, right? But also, you take this and insert your product. What is it? So if you're taking CBD oil, then you take the CBD oil. If you have an essential oil blend, then you take that essential oil blend. But it's all part of a system. Just like way back in the day, those breakfast cereal companies said that cereal was part of a nutritious breakfast. It was part. It wasn't the complete system. It wasn't a complete breakfast, but it was part of a nutritious breakfast, right? And so each of it had its part. And so as you think through what you are selling, what part does that product play in to solve whatever outcome your target market has? Does that make any sense? And as I started thinking about that, I was like, wow, that is so true, because the times that I tried to sell the product on its own, dude, it was like pulling teeth. And I was like, oh my God. And, and again, these aren't like, things that are just like way out there. They're things that people are already taking, right? So they're already trusted. And so, they don't have any side effects or anything, but it always seemed seemed to be really, really difficult. But as soon as, I started, adding in other things to a, complete solution, that was the words that I would use, a complete solution to whatever problem, insert your problem or desire, that your target market has, then I started noticing sales were going up. And I was like, and I didn't put two and two together, and it didn't really hit me until I started watching that cereal commercial, and I noticed at the end when it said part of a nutritious breakfast. So take this and look at what your sales process is. And if your sales are going down and if you're having a hard time closing people, think about if I am just trying to sell the product on its own. Most of the time, people are not going to buy the product on its own. Now, you're going to have some outliers, obviously, but we're talking about continued sales. We're talking about sales in the vast marketplace, right? And so for the majority of people, they are going to need something else to go along with it that helps to build their trust. And it also helps to give you the credibility and the authority to say, hey, this is a great way to solve whatever. Does that make any sense? So that's all I have for you. I had that thought. I wanted to kind of share it with you, and I thought it was interesting, especially something coming out of me and my wife just sitting around talking with our children. So anyway, I hope you got some value out of that. That's all that I have for you today. As always, you have an awesome day. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to talk to you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you want to hear more of how the top income earners are actually building their network marketing business beyond their family and friends, please subscribe so you don't miss any of the secret hacks that I uncover.